Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our disability awareness segment brought to you by OGPay.com, today we're featuring Stephanie Thigpen, a 36-year-old Minnesota mama and wife, and of course, influencer. She has 4 darling children, ages 8 and under, one of whom has severe intellectual and physical disabilities. Along with her children and husband, she thrives to spread disability awareness and inclusion. Her family tries to face medical hardship with hope and are strengthened by the knowledge that love goes hand in hand with sacrifice. Through her blog and on social media, she's honest and open about the complexities of her life, sharing the joys and the struggles, and committed to the motto that the world is full of beauty, even though it's full of pain. Now, according to the National Survey of Children's Health in America, about 14 million children under 18 years old, that's about 19%, have a special healthcare need. 25% of homes had one or more child with a special healthcare need. And children and youth with special healthcare needs are more likely to live in poverty, be non-Hispanic, Black, and have public insurance than non-children that are in the completely normal spectrum. Today, she joins me to chat disability advocacy, demystifying the stigmas, family, and how she balances it all. Welcoming now to the show is my beautiful mama warrior, Stephanie Thigpen. Welcome, superstar.
Hello, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me. So let's dive right in, because I was scrolling through Instagram and came across a heartwarming post about Garrett, who is your son, and he's medically complex. Now, Garrett has a list of conditions and medical complexities, but no formal overarching diagnosis. Did you have a normal pregnancy, and were you aware of any of Garrett's conditions before giving birth?
So my pregnancy was normal. Everything seemed healthy and fine until the 20-week ultrasound. At that point, we learned about club feet in Garrett and a cleft lip, a possible cleft lip. And so at that was when the doctors kind of said, ooh, 2 anomalies kind of make us think there might be something connecting. We can test your blood and, we can see what we can see what we can see. And so my husband, Andrew, and I did have some non-invasive testing done. Some further testing was offered that we passed on just because of potential risks to the baby. But that was all they knew. All of the testing, all of the monitoring they did said, okay, he seems like a healthy baby other than these 2 things. So we'll just kind of be ready. They induced me at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, which was not my hospital, but they said, we're gonna have a controlled birth where there's a world-class NICU team ready in case there's something problematic at birth. And there was. So thank the Lord we were there, because he was rescued and intubated right away at birth. But even after that, they still couldn't know. And to this date, he's almost 5. They have not found an underlying condition or genetic official syndrome.
This is fascinating. I mean, and worse yet, navigating medical complexities can be challenging for individuals with disabilities, and more importantly, their families. But often, I mean, you guys face you face such barriers, such as limited accessibility to healthcare facilities, lack of healthcare providers trained in disability-related issues. In your case, there's not even an official diagnosis. I mean, what about inadequate healthcare coverage and the stigma surrounding disabilities and health conditions? I mean, these challenges, without a doubt, significantly impact your overall well-being and the quality of life for Garrett, for sure. I mean, there must be some level of frustration there. Now, when were you able to take Garrett home from the hospital, and what was it like adjusting to being the parent to a child with special needs with no actual diagnoses?
Yeah, well, it worked out sort of that he was in the hospital for 5 months. So we didn't bring him home for 5 months. And I think a lot of the adjustment happened during that time, because during that time he had multiple, trips to the OR, so many scary conversations with the world's top doctors about, potential results, potential potential death, and again, the ongoing question, we don't know what will happen. We don't know what to look for in the future. We don't know what a prognosis is. When we did transition home after the 5 months, though we were much more accustomed to kind of the world of doctor's appointments and OR and medical fear, he did come home with a tracheostomy. So he has a hole in his neck that he breathes out of, and it's often, well, at that point was 24/7 hooked up to a ventilator machine, which required 24/7 trained nursing in our home. That was a very, very, very big adjustment to not only being suddenly your medical parent, but you're kind of like a ICU in your home where there's employees are coming and going. And that was kind of the bigger adjustment for us, honestly.
Wow, you've been through quite the ringer, my darling. Now,
Mm.
when you look at when I look at special needs parents, I mean, you're the equivalent of Batman, Captain America, and the Incredible Hulk combined with the side of Mary Poppins. And sometimes the things we can't change end up changing us, right? And I
Mm.
think for the most part, while we try to teach our children all about life, our children really teach us what life is all about. And in your case, it's really playing out like that. Now, what are Garrett's current challenges and overall prognosis? I mean, if there is one.
So currently, as I said, he'll be 5 in a couple weeks at the end of July, and he is still functional, kind of like a 2-month old. Actually, even less so because he cannot. He eats through a G tube, so he doesn't eat like a 2-month old would eat. But his, he can smile, and he can kind of interact pleasurably with the world, and he can interact angrily with the world like babies can. But he cannot. He is in a wheelchair when he can tolerate the wheelchair, but often he cannot sit on his own. And so he does kind of a lot of spastic movement that make him not tolerate the wheelchair, which requires he wants to be held, but he's so strong that he can like throw an adult or a caregiver's back. He's arching, and it's like you're constantly holding this flailing little boy. But I don't know if you know this about children who have adults with neurological problems. That have you heard them talk about moms who in a moment of strength can like lift a car
Yes.
to rescue their, yeah. So my husband and I spoke with neurologists about this. Our strength, human strength, is so much beyond what we do every day. Our brain naturally inhibits. Otherwise we would exhaust her. It would be too much. So when the mom is lifting the car, it's the brain like releases that for that moment, and she's able to use her whole strength. And part of little Garrett's neurodeficiencies are he does not have those inhibitors. So the strength that he is using and arching and flailing with is kind of like this
Wow.
superhuman strength that most of us don't have daily access to. So that's honestly kind of the biggest struggle that we face with him, is that weird strength, that weird body movement. And it's just so hard for him and for us to help him with.
Well, congratulations to your older 8-year-old who held him at church. I saw that post.
Yes.
And I think you were so proud of her for getting through that. And again, now now that you explain the story, it's so much more significant that she held him without, endangering herself or even him, and was able to get through that. So you're fortunate that you have some helpers around.
Yes.
Now, one significant aspect of disability advocacy, of course, is addressing the medical complexities associated with the disabilities. And many disabilities come with unique medical challenges that require specialized care, like you said, and treatments and accommodations. And these medical complexities vary widely depending on the specific disability. And quite often, insurance companies don't cover it all.
Mhm.
So it becomes very strenuous, not just on the family, but on everybody involved, the whole community and ecosystem. How do you balance Garrett's needs with the needs of your other children, and how did they adjust to his condition?
Ooh, that is a big question. They were so little when he was born. I was just thinking about this last night, and how old, in light of that, Garrett's birthday is coming up, that My little Kateri was 3 and Declan was 1 when he was born. So he was just their little brother, and he was in the hospital, kind of like often when any siblings have little baby siblings, oh, they're in the hospital, and he stayed longer, but they didn't know any different, So that adjustment to his medical complexity and our sudden medical complexity life, that wasn't as much of an adjustment for them because it's kind of just what they know.
Right.
However, the balancing between his needs and their needs, that is something my husband and I work on every day. And we have heard from a lot of beautiful stories of siblings who have grown up just better, stronger, more loving people. But we have heard stories from people who say, I love my sibling, but I feel a distance from my parents because I felt like my sibling got all the time at the doctor's office and then all the mental time at home. And we, Andrew and I, take that very seriously and try very, very hard to raise our children so that their experience is that of the first, that nothing but learning more about true love, about sacrifice. Yes, there is sacrifice in love, but that they are growing to be more compassionate, empathetic, and that they feel that they have equal access to their parents' worry, concern, energy, playtime, etc.
Well, you're doing such a good job at balancing it all, because even the other day, I saw something in your posts, and some people agreed and some others didn't agree with, was when you took Garrett on the riverboat cruise with you and your husband. And I thought that was so interesting that some people said, hey, listen, you have to incorporate alone time in your marriage, and you shouldn't be taking him, whether it's in the stroller or not. And to your defense, you're like, well, this is also not just about me and my husband, but about you feeling that guilt of wanting to connect with Garrett outside of just even the environment. And it's interesting because unless you're walking the shoes, you can't judge people. But I appreciated your candor in your post, and just being honest with the world and saying, and you didn't have to put up that post. No one needed to know that you were going on a date with your husband and you brought your kid. But I'm like, look at this brave woman. And there's some comments that you just take it for a grain of salt, and you're like, these are the ignorant people that are going to make these silly comments. But what are the myths or stigmas that you want to demystify about children with disabilities?
Oh man, I guess I don't. I have been actually really blessed in that mostly the comments that I've gotten, both online and in life, have been very positive of children and people with disability. Very, very supportive, actually, for the most part, and I feel blessed and thankful for that. The thing that isn't necessarily a stigma or a negative thing, but adults have told their parents, or adults have shushed their children from like staring, or like, oh, don't, and if you see Garrett, like visually, he's something to stare at. Like, wow, you got a thing in your neck, you got he has this precious little face, but it's clearly not that of a typical little 5-year-old.
Right.
And he's in a wheelchair and he needs all this help. And it's, we had these machines that were suctioning out saliva from his mouth or suctioning his airway. It's worthy of staring at. And I have told parents of these children, like, it's okay. They can ask questions. They're not looking at something that is different. Doesn't mean they're saying this is bad. They're showing curiosity and observing something that is real. And that is something I would say that's the biggest thing that I try to make sure people know, that it's okay if you're curious about something that's different. Of course, you don't know anything about a kid breathing out of his neck.
Yeah.
And that's okay to ask.
Yes. And social awareness and social advocacy is extremely important in this respect. Now, we have about a minute left. If you can answer this question quickly, if you could go back to when you first learned of Garrett's conditions, what advice would you have given yourself, and what advice would you give to the disability community?
To myself, I would say there is just hold on. There's nothing you can do or solve in this moment. Don't think you can. Do it day by day and trust. your husband, yes, trust doctors, trust the people who are telling you all the big words, but don't put all of your trust in that. Don't hang it all on there. Trust your gut, trust the people who love you. Advice I would give to the special needs community. Hope does an awful lot. That if you can fill your bucket full of hope and acceptance of your situation rather than trying to kind of change it or the grass is greener looking for something else, because you're not going to get there. Probably if you just are wishing for something that will never be, your life will be full of that rather than seeping in the joys and hope and beauty that is there, even in a painful.
You are amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. You are incredible and transparent, and it was an honor to get to chat with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Guys, a mother's love is unconditional and everlasting. A mother's love is a special bond between a mother and her child that can never, ever be broken. And mothers will give up their own happiness for the sake of their child. And the love that a mom has for that child can never be measured or described in words. And what you just witnessed is a mom with unconditional love for all her children. That was our disability awareness segment brought to you by OGPay.com. You definitely have to check out Stephanie Thigpen all over the gram. Definitely check her out on her blog, truthandbeautyremain.com, but definitely check her out on social media. You'll get to see a lot of behind the scenes and true transparent moments at Truth and Beauty Remain. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OGPay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OGPay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out OGPay.com.